Hello and welcome to episode number 39. My name is Torsten Taubel, and today I'm going to talk about fitting in others. That's kind of the question. I think it's a little, this is bright as I can go. Got a lot of reflection this morning. It's nice and sunny out. It's cool. Anyways, so what does that mean? What is that about? Oh, I forgot to put my mic in. Okay, this might be a little bit different today. Um, so fitting in others. What I've been looking at is those days where things are kind of wonky sometimes, and you just there's days where you can ask questions, and then and you definitely get awareness out of asking questions. And one of the questions I definitely ask in this situation, whose world am I in, or am I in my world? And or universe, or whatever words you want to use. What's really cool about asking those questions and asking a question something like that is having the awareness that you might be in somebody else's world, and that might seem a little strange to you, but I'm going to put it in a different way. And so the way I'm going to put it in is that you have somebody in your life. It may be like family, maybe your mother or your sister or your brother or your father, or whatever it is, or even a friend that's close to you, and you're trying to fit into their world, or you are trying to make you fit into them, or it's almost like they want you to be a certain way and you try to be that way, which, as you may encounter, doesn't work too well, at least not for you. So have you ever had that? Has that ever shown up for you? And this is a question I ask you because I know it shows up for me sometimes, and it's a bit startling when it does. You're just kind of like, what? What do you mean? Like, hello? And so you start becoming aware that you're trying to be somebody else. You're trying to be somebody else for somebody else. So what's interesting about that, and this is something that is actually super common. It has to do a lot with expectations in our world. This happens a lot in families where parents expect their children to be a certain way, and so there's a lot of expectations of how somebody's supposed to be or how somebody's supposed to show up. And so you notice, you may notice this shows up in your world, and this is kind of why I'm bringing this topic, why I'm talking about it today. It's really fascinating when you notice that you maybe do it with a lot of people, and you may not notice until you start becoming aware of this and asking some questions around this. And also, I'm just going to add, I know I'm jumping around a lot today. It's that whole thing about being a people pleaser. So when when you're a people pleaser, you definitely do that a lot, actually. And the other thing is that you may also be super aware of what people ask of you, or require of you, or require of themselves, and so you know what you have to do to make that work. And so it's really interesting when we play with this, when you become aware of how much you do it. Now, I asked a question the other day, and it was something along the lines of, what does it look like when you're choosing for you? And really what I was looking at is a spark of where people what sparks in people's worlds. This lighting is killing me right now. Sorry, I'm going to move the camera and move over. It's still not great. I should have put some other lights on. Anyways, squirrel moment there. But it's really where you end up being so much of a people pleaser, and that's kind of maybe what you've done, what you're used to in your life, and so it seems normal. This is just a totally normal thing in your world. And also being a people pleaser isn't wrong. But what often happens is people that are people pleasers never please themselves, ever. And that's what I'm talking to. That's what I'm talking about. So there's nothing wrong with being a people pleaser if you would only please yourself once in a while, or more often. What would that create? And it's great, because that's a great quality to be a people pleaser in a way, because you can be aware of what is required. And that's a skill, actually. That's quite a gift and a skill. Not everybody can do that. So it's more just taking it from a different point of view. So if you were to please yourself, or to do something and be aware of what is required for you, and you actually chose that, what would it be? And would you choose different than you currently do? That would be the other question I would ask, and the other question you can ask yourself. What brings this up? Well, I notice these things popping up in my own life, and I become aware of when this shows up for me. When I go into that place where it's like you're looking to please somebody else, or take care of somebody else, whoever that is, where there's maybe certain expectations in your world, and you just do it. And sometimes, doing it is not a big deal. So it actually creates, more for everyone. And sometimes it doesn't. And so it's just being aware when it doesn't. And so if you ever end up in those places where you're kind of like blah, and there's this constant blah showing up, that's when you got to start looking. Okay, so if I looked at this situation from a totally different point of view, and I was choosing, okay, so what would I have to choose for it to work for me? That may be something different. You may realize in that moment, okay, cool. So if I was to please myself in this situation, what would I choose? And then you start looking at it and becoming aware of am I then, have I been trying to do something else to please somebody else? And is that working? And what would work for you? And what would you have to choose to make it work for you? And also be aware of, it's not cutting yourself off from anyone. It's just having that awareness of that's what this person is asking of me. That doesn't actually work for me right now. I'm going to choose something else, and it's totally okay to do that. And so it's really that, playing with that, and seeing what else you can create with that, and what else that creates in your world, and also the other person's world. There is something that I talk about a lot, and I talk about it because it really actually is forgotten. We forget about it so much. It's that when you choose for you, that actually creates this thing in people's worlds where, and again, they rarely ever say anything to you about it, but it creates this unspoken kind of respect. And you may ask, well, what do you mean? Or why is that? Or how do you know that? Well, because when you actually choose for what works for you without cutting somebody else off, you're actually respecting yourself. And when you're respecting yourself, then people tend to respect you more. And this is a strange thing. I know as I'm talking, things are kind of changing, but this whole thing in society, the whole way we do society, we don't actually respect each other that much or honor each other. However you want to, phrase it or talk about it, it's this honoring of you, this respect for you by choosing for you, and in return, because you've chosen that for yourself, other people tend to respect and honor you as well. And so it's really interesting with that. So what else can show up with that, and what else is really possible? This lighting is driving me nuts. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit of okay. Is that any better? No, it's not any better at all. Anyways, it probably looks better to you than it does to me. Sorry, keep on editing. Anyway, so it's this honoring and respect of yourself, and it's strange when you actually choose it for you. It can show up way more in the rest of your life, and that includes all the people around you. And so this is a piece that I think is often not spoken about, and it's often not acknowledged, really, that when you actually, be a people pleaser for yourself, and you're really respecting and honoring yourself, which is an amazing thing to do. And it's also, when I talk about it in this way, it's not about cutting everyone else off and going, giving the finger to other people and saying, forget about you or whatever. It's not about that. It's about, choosing for what works for you and just going with that and seeing what can show up and what that can create for you and everyone around you. So that's really this episode, what it was all about. It's really the honoring of you and not being in somebody else's world, and really choosing your world, and seeing and realizing that when you do, it creates a shift in you as well. You'll notice when you actually do it. You'll become aware of this, and especially, again, when you're doing it from this respect and honoring of yourself, of creating more, you will notice that things change and things show up in a different way for you. And there will be this different energy that shows up around you as well. So let me know. I am actually super curious to know if that's shown up in your life, how it's shown up, and what that's changed. And really to talk about this and to see how these different things that we choose in our life can create a completely different world for yourself and everyone. And that's really what I am all about and love to play with, is changing people's lives and changing the world at the same time. So thank you very much for watching, and thank you so much for playing with it. And if you liked these videos, please watch many of my other ones that I have. All right, have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.